There we go. And we are now live on YouTube.
Linda or Mike, do we have an updated agenda? Because the agenda in my email for this meeting is the same as the agenda for awareness. So I don't have an agenda for LGBTQIA+.
I do. I think I do have that agenda.
I think I do too. I'm just might need a minute to look for it.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
For Carrico, I found it, and I will.
Oh, bless your heart. Thank you.
I wonder what the best. I have your direct email, so I.
Yeah, if you could email it to me, that'd be super cool. It helps me kind of stay focused if I have an agenda to follow along.
Let's see. No, I said that, and I pulled it up, and then I couldn't find it again. That was the way.
Let's see.
I have a copy of a meeting summary from last meeting. Yeah, and it looks like the agenda that was attached to the message I had was for the meeting after this at 7 o'clock.
Yeah, I think just a simple mistake, totally fine. But if anyone else has the updated agenda.
Okay.
I found it, Tricarico, and I have it as a.
I was just going to ask for your email address real quick in the interest of time, but it sounds like Mike's got it.
Yep.
Okay.
All right, I just shot it over to you. The main topic tonight was just safe spaces. We didn't really have anything else on the agenda.
Okay.
We do have welcome and introduction, so we can go ahead and do that. And I can start. I'm Mike Waters, and I'm the chair of the LGBTQIA plus Intersectional Task Force for the Human Rights Commission. And my pronouns are they and them. And Tricarico, I'll pass it to you as our other active member tonight.
Yeah, I'm Tricarico. My pronouns are they, them. I'm a human rights commissioner and a resident of Ward 2. I'll pass it to Charles.
Okay, well, I'm an observer, and first of all, thank you for letting me participate. My name is Charles Fong. I've been a Salem resident for about 16 years, and I met Gretchen primarily through her support of the AAPI community and investigating some of the bias crimes, particularly that issue with the Willamette student earlier in February, as well as other incidents that have been reported on social media. So I'm simply here as an observer, and I like this idea of safe spaces. So I'm interested to hear more about that and learn a lot, and delighted that you have space for me tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Charles. We're glad you're here. Linda, would you like to introduce yourself?
Certainly. My name is Linda Rose, and I work in the city manager's office with Gretchen. I am actually the assistant to Mayor Bennett, so I'm taking on a little bit different role tonight, but I'm happy to be here.
Thank you. And Bria, do you want to say anything?
Oh, sure.
You want to be anonymous.
Well, with IT, we'd like to stay anonymous, right? Yeah, I'm here for technical assistance. My name is Bria DeZodel. I'm with the IT department, but I've been so grateful for the opportunity of being able to join these. So thank you.
Well, excellent. Well, we do not have quorum tonight for our task force, so we would not be able to approve the minutes, but it's worthwhile, Tricarico, if you haven't looked at the minutes, it's worthwhile to look at it because Gretchen did a great job of capturing sort of the materials that we wanted to put into our packet. So with those introductions and minutes out of the way, Charles, did you want to make any kind of public comment tonight, or do you just want to participate in the discussion on safe spaces?
Oh, I just think the safe spaces idea is a timely issue or a subject. And I believe that a lot of communities, and I'm just willing, or I'm sorry, I think I heard my phone ring. I just want to listen and just kind of like stay in the background. Thank you. Thank you.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I think with that, we can move into discussion of where we're at with safe spaces. In our last meeting, we talked about further about more about how the program would work. And we had some, I'm pulling up my minutes right now so I can speak intelligently to it. We had some discussion about how complaints will be handled, and I think we came to some good resolution there. And we had some discussion about the things that would be included in the packet. Since that time, we had our regular Human Rights Commission meeting, and of course, Tricarico, you were there. And at that meeting, we kind of discussed how there were some components of the Safe Spaces project that may have a budgetary implication. And so it might not be a this year kind of program, because we would need to work through a budget process to get supported. Most of the things involved with the Safe Spaces programs are sort of more ancillary budget, like having the decals printed and having the packets put together. Those are more ancillary. But the one piece that our group came up with that we think is important was having actually an artist from one of our communities, whether that's LGBTQIA or BIPOC or another community that's underrepresented, actually being paid to design the decal. It was important to us that if we were going to use an artist for that decal, that it be from one of the communities and that they actually be paid for it, rather than doing some sort of contest or something like that that is not really supporting the community in a rich way. Gretchen made a suggestion that at the time that we were ready to pursue that one, that there's a budget piece where we would need to be able to make a case for some budget for that particular piece of the puzzle, as well as working with the city's art commission to kind of help guide that process a little bit. Does that sound accurate, Tricarico, to the conversation that we had?
Yeah, that sounds accurate.
So given though that, I don't know where we want to take the discussion tonight around next steps. I mean, we have a little bit more lead time now if we're going to follow that process and have a budget piece of it. But I do think the program, there's plenty of things that we can talk about in the lead up to it. And Charles, not to put you on the spot, but I saw just a glimpse of the conversation that you had with Gretchen prior to this, and you were wondering about where some of these safe spaces might be located throughout the city. We've been focused on businesses that would voluntarily participate in the safe spaces, but I saw in one of your notes something about indicating safe spaces in some of our city spaces, like parks and community areas. Is that, am I remembering that right?
Yes, correct. I did mention some interactions that I have had with other fellow Salem folks, as well as observing interactions with just the general public. And not to like get ahead of myself, sometimes body language is really quite revealing, and you can tell it when folks are really uncomfortable. And so, for example, at Minto Park, I did observe a couple instances where folks, the interaction seemed a bit awkward. So I don't know if something would be appropriate for a large space like that, or even the carousel area. But I'm thinking, why not cast a wide net and shoot for a lot of targets, if you will. And I see a spillover effect, quite frankly, Mike, in that the LGBTQ, and see, I not always remember the last two syllables, but just that we have as a coalition a lot of shared interests, and there's the ability to collaborate and to support each other, and so I think that whatever you folks do, however my communities that I collaborate with can be supportive of you, I mean, I'm down for that and all in.
Well, when I saw that in your note, I have to say that I was actually walking my dog to a city park, and my heart leapt. Of course, I shouldn't be checking in my email while I'm walking my dog, but don't we all multitask these days? But my heart leapt because I thought, oh my gosh, we did miss a little piece of this, which is that we focused it on businesses that would volunteer to participate. But one of the biggest organizations that can participate in our project is the city itself. And we could work with the city, and it might be another budget piece that we want to talk about, to have appropriate signage throughout our city parks and city buildings, the library, and other places where citizens and residents are congregating, to really make sure that the message of Salem being a safe and welcoming community is widely seen. So I feel like that was a gap in our initial concept in a way. It seems to provide another opportunity for us to have further conversations with the city about this being something that the city embraces. And in that way, if we can get city and city council to be supportive of the idea, it also allows them to model the behavior for the businesses, so that when businesses opt into the program, they'll know that these messages and decals would also be available in other places. So I absolutely loved the idea, and I wondered, Tricarico, as our other member, what I see you nodding, and that's a good sign.
Yeah, I agree. And this, Charles, you brought up some really good points about like public spaces and public parks. And I'm wondering, I think there's some sort of volunteer program that people volunteer to patrol the parks. I'm wondering if we could connect with those folks to get them involved in this program, even if it's just like an awareness level. And I'm also wondering, could we set up a table at some of these parks like once a month, just to let people know, like, hey, we're the Human Rights Commission, and this is this project we're doing. And just, I mean, it kind of would cross over to awareness, which is conveniently right after this, and a lot of the same people. But, could that be part of the program? Not only to, we already talked about networking with local businesses, but also just with people, right? Like if people know this program exists, could we have people participating on an individual basis as well as like, hey, I'm someone who's going to get bystander intervention training, for example, and I'm going to say something when I see someone who's being really uncomfortable or being microaggressed or being, assaulted in a park or a place. Like, what do we do in those situations? Because I think a lot of times when people see that, they don't know what to do, or they don't feel safe, or, they just don't know what to do when that situation happens. And I think it would be nice if we could offer some resources for folks. So that's another part of making our community safe, right? Is like empowering individuals to be a part of that.
Yes, excellent.
Yeah, as you can see, I have a visitor.
My cat does that too. I've got the door closed this time, but he's been known to tromp across a meeting.
Charles, I can't express enough how much richness you've added to this conversation, because things that had not even occurred occurred to us, or by extension, the Human Rights Commission, because we have reported this back a couple times to the full commission. But those were ideas that hadn't really occurred to us, and they make complete sense, I think, because among all the spaces that need to be safe in Salem, the public spaces are some of the most important to address. And so it seems like something that we could build into our plans and into the actual proposal document. That will need to, I think, now that we're talking more about budget, I think we'll need to build out that proposal document a little bit more in order to incorporate some of that thinking. So it just seems like perfect. So I'm so glad that you reached out about it. What other things with regards to the program do we think are important to chat about tonight? Are there some action items that we need to work on? I was looking at the resource list for the packet, and a lot of that stuff we do have on hand and is relatively easy to pull together. And I know within the next few months that I have a little bit of time to do some of the detail work in there around writing some of the pieces. But I just wondered if there are other things that we should talk about with regards to the program tonight, or things we may not have thought of so far. Yeah, Charles.
I'm sorry. I was thinking about some of the neighborhood social media websites. Nextdoor is, I think there's about over 8,000 active members in Salem, and it's broken down by neighborhoods. And I've noticed that there can be a high quality in terms of discussion. There's always goofy stuff, which is actually very entertaining, and it drives traffic to the site, which is great for them. I mean, that's what they're all about. But I would think that some outreach, some messaging on Nextdoor might be impactful.
Yeah, you raise a really good point, which is that when we get this program off the ground, we'll want to do a pretty robust communication plan. And that could include, I think Nextdoor is a perfect spot. I think Facebook obviously is a good spot. I think direct outreach to our communities. We have a really good email list for HRC of the different community organizations that represent all sorts of different populations is a good opportunity. And if we're really talking about this being a next year thing, we could actually go to meetings in person and actually talk to people face to face, which would be a really great opportunity as well to do outreach. I don't know, what other outreach ideas do you think would be good? I loved your idea, Tricarico, about just setting up a booth at a park on like a busy summer day. You could end up talking to tons of people. And we've tended as an HRC to go to a lot of community events, but actually just going to a random, community park with a table is not something I've ever thought of, but really is kind of a fun idea.
Yeah, I mean, I'm excited about just being able to do stuff in person in general. But I think, like I said, it would dovetail nicely into our plan to just get more awareness. And I think we'll see a stronger response this time, because I think people are more and more concerned about human rights, about safety, about all of that stuff in general. So I think we'll see a pretty good response, and it'd be really cool if we could offer like various resources. I was wondering about, not only just the bystander intervention, but almost looking at neighborhood watch programs too, and like seeing what ideas we could pull from those. like what are some strategies to kind of build community and build safety so that, if it happened like on a sidewalk, right? Like how could someone support someone who is being attacked, microaggressed, whatever? Because I think a lot of the times the reports that we get don't necessarily happen in a business or even a park. It's one of those in between spots. And that's intentional, right? I think people intentionally look for a time when their victim can't get as much support. So I'm wondering, like, how do we combat that? Right. And what are some strategies we could borrow from like safety programs, neighborhood watch programs to make that really robust? I know we have like the bias crime hotline, and that could be a great thing to add. But I'm just wondering what other things are out there that we could potentially incorporate into this. I mean, I don't imagine it being as intense as a neighborhood watch program, but like I said, maybe there's some ideas we could borrow.
And you raise a really, I wonder, and Linda, you might know from your vantage at the city, like, do we have a fair number of formal neighborhood watch programs in Salem? And could we communicate with the people who run those?
Actually, the neighborhood watch programs aren't really connected so much with the city, although I believe police certainly knows about them and probably has contact information. What the city is more closely connected to are the neighborhood associations. And there are about, I think, 20-ish of them. So that, in fact, the neighborhood association liaison is going to be coming to work in our office very soon. So there'll be a close connector for you there in the fairly near future.
It seems like both those types of organizations, both the neighborhood associations and the neighborhood watches, that it would be valuable for us to provide some of the same resources to them that we're developing for the Safe Spaces business. Mm-hmm. A neighborhood watch organization in particular, one of the things that we talked about a lot and is listed in our Safe Spaces kind of initial draft document is about racial profiling. And I worry about neighborhood watches for that reason, that if the people who are running those independent organizations are not educated about racial profiling and are not alerted that that's a big concern, that they could be participating in it, that they could be actually profiling their neighbors and making judgments not based on somebody's behavior or what they're doing in a neighborhood, but on how they look, and that is not in line with the best way to keep people safe, and it makes people unsafe, in fact, and it can escalate situations and escalate violence, which is what none of us want. So it seems to me that both of those outlets would be good to outreach to. And if the police have a sense for who those neighborhood watches are and have contact information, that at the very least we could share resources. And we can't necessarily force anybody to enjoy our resources, right? Like we can't necessarily make that kind of change. But if they were at least aware that that racial profiling is something that we were concerned about as a city, that might, get them to think before maybe making a mistake, which is what we really want. What do y'all think?
Yeah, that sounds really good.
Well, what are there any other things that we I know Linda's furiously taking notes. Thank you so much. And these great ideas will get captured so that we can follow up on them in future meetings. What other things do you think we should be considering as you think about the documentation we've done so far, the documentation we have yet to do that'll be partially based on tonight's notes and previous minutes? are there any other things that you think we should kind of explore tonight?
I don't know. I'm looking through our program overview again.
Do we do anything in the program overview? It's been a while since I looked at it. Did we do anything about housing status?
I don't think so.
I wonder if that's something we should consider including.
Yeah. I think we were sticking to what's in chapter 97. So if that gets updated, we could change that, but I'm wondering if we can put something like in anticipation or just anyway, you know?
Well, it seems like this is a voluntary program, right? And,
Yeah.
that if that's something that we think is important for businesses to be aware of, that it's that people visiting the business should be treated respectfully, regardless of and it's not even necessarily housing status as much as perceived housing status.
True. Yeah. Well, and you could even word it like people, you know, that in addition to chapter 97 protections, people should be free from discrimination based on housing status or perceived housing status. Because I know there's language, there's other places where that language is used, perceived identity or perceived gender, right?
I like that as an included idea because the business should intervene if there's a behavior that they don't want at their business. That is always within in their realm. But that somebody looks, you know, if somebody's looking really rough, it might mean that they need help, not that they need bullying.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a way to include that where I really liked what you said about focus on the behavior, not the looks. Like businesses are free to, you know, address behaviors or seek support if a behavior becomes a problem, but should refrain from anticipating behaviors or making assumptions about someone based on solely how they look. Because it kind of goes back to your comment about neighbors perceiving other neighbors as doing something wrong just because of how they look, right?
Yeah, I like that because it also gives the business the freedom to address a behavior.
Absolutely, yeah, because we definitely don't want them to think that, you know, this is a opportunity for someone to be a total jerk and be like, oh, you can't do that because it's related to my protected class. No, you don't get to be a jerk.
Yeah, or like if I join this program, then I'll never be able to address XYZ. That's
right.
business. I think we want the businesses to understand like that's not what we're asking for.
Yeah, of course not.
Program. We're really just asking them to be on the lookout for bias and discrimination.
Right.
Yeah, I really like that idea.
So maybe additional language in the agreement about addressing behaviors and housing status or perceived housing status.
Yeah, that's nice. Another thought that I had, since we have some longer lead time because we want to include this budgetary piece of it, is maybe it might be worthwhile to see if we can get some business owners to provide us with some feedback about how does this look to you? Does this seem reasonable? Is this the kind of thing that you could see yourself adopting in your business? Is this something that you would sort of grudgingly accept or gleefully accept? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It may be worthwhile and to find some business owners. We know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea. We know that not every business owner in Salem even cares about discrimination, unfortunately, but we know that there are some who definitely do and who would definitely put a decal in their window and would definitely want to abide by the program. And so maybe some of those that we have a good sense of, we could kind of shop the idea around and just see how it feels for them.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. And I'm wondering if we could connect with the local Chamber of Commerce, because that would be a pretty instant connection to a lot of business owners who are like plugged into Salem and what's going on in Salem.
Yeah, that's a good idea. I have some connections there, so I can kind of work offline and talk about the best way to do that.
Cool, thank you.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And it would help us seed maybe some support for the program later on once we're ready to launch it.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll also have the opportunity to run this by the full commission. And I don't know if maybe we want to even bring in some of our other community partners to provide input as we develop it out more. I think we want a more complete, some more complete documentation before we shop it around. But that's another thought, is some more of our community partners could.
Yeah, because I'm also wondering, like, what do the colleges have in place? Because campuses usually have similar programs. We could get their feedback and input as to what's been successful for them or what things they've seen students ask.
Oh, I love that.
Like they're going to be pretty, I don't know if cutting edge is the right term, but they're going to be pretty up to date on what people's wants and needs are around ideas like this.
Yeah, safe spaces have been on college campuses for years.
Yeah.
Years and years. A lot of colleges have had them, and it's more happening in communities more recently. Like we know about the Seattle version of this program, for example, and I think that program's fairly recent. So getting the input of the colleges is a really good idea. I wonder if they even have it. I think we could connect up with diversity, equity, inclusion people at those organizations, probably.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if I know anybody. I don't know anybody off the top of my head, but
I mean, I'll bet Gretchen does.
Oh yeah, I'm sure she does. Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know anybody off the top of my head either.
Yeah.
Well, any other thoughts on safe spaces? I think we have a good, healthy list of things to follow up on between now and next month. This was our main agenda item, and I think our only other item was member remarks and announcements. And I did want to mention one thing, which is that March 31st was actually Trans Day of Visibility. And we as and it came and went pretty quickly, but we as a task force have always worked on Trans Day of Remembrance. And I wondered if we want to be a little bit more plugged into some of the other recognition events that happen throughout the year that aren't being covered by other organizations. So like, for example, Pride, we know, has a robust organization that is putting on Capitol Pride. I don't know when they're doing it for 2021, but they are doing it for sure. They did it last year. Other events like Trans Day of Visibility, National Coming Out Day. I wondered about some of those other types of recognition events, if we might want to, maybe at one of our upcoming meetings, take a look at those and see if there's any that we want to do even a small thing for. I think our Trans Day of Remembrance recognition is quite beautiful and touching, but there are just many other recognition events throughout the year. And I just wondered what the task force thought about that.
I think that's a great idea because I think, yeah, our Trans Day of Remembrance event is really cool. It's also really heavy. So it'd be nice to have something a little more positive to kind of balance that out. You know, I mean, it's important, but yeah, I think it would be nice to do some more events or something, even just like a social media campaign around it or sharing a story or something like that. I think that could be cool.
So perhaps I'll then ask Gretchen to have that on our agenda for next meeting, and we can ask folks to bring their event ideas. I know National Coming Out Day is October 12th or 11th, one of the two. That might be our next one coming up. That's also pretty close to Trans Day of Remembrance, which is in late November. We did commit to starting planning for Trans Day of Remembrance in July of this year, so we probably won't talk about that until our July meeting. So it seems like our May, just talking about some of the other events might be a good thing, as well as continue conversation about safe spaces. It does seem like safe spaces being a very inclusive project at some point, you know, operationally, sorry to use my business words, operationally should probably move to the broader HRC as owning it rather than just our task force. So at some point, I think we'll want to compile all our stuff and then really ask HRC, the broader HRC, to kind of finish that program, it seems to me. But doing some more LGBTQ events would be, LGBTQIA plus events would be super fun.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, cool. Any other member remarks and announcements? All right. Well, I think with that said, then we can adjourn for the evening. Tricarico, Linda, and Bria, I'll see you in about 20 minutes on our awareness task force. Charles, you can join us if you want, but maybe one task force a night is enough for you. We really so appreciate you joining us tonight. It was really cool to meet you, and you brought some like amazing ideas.
Yes,
Bravo,
thank you so much for joining us.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you. I guess I should hit this, right? If I hit this, no, wait, that didn't work. Okay, I need to practice more on Zoom. But thank you for having me. And I'm really excited about all the great efforts and vision of your group, and be delighted to support you in any way I can going forward. So thank you again.
Awesome. I hope to see you soon. Take care, everybody.
Okay, see ya.
Bye.